her, Swati Popat Vats. She's the president of Podar Jumbo Kids Preschools chain of 309 owned and franchised preschools countrywide, as well as the founder-president of the Early Childhood Association of India, which has a membership of 3,000 preschools across India. When we began in 2010, I think Early Childhood Association was in its infancy, and I think we've contributed to building the membership of Early Childhood Association of India, and we're very happy that Swati has taken the message of investment in early childhood education to every nook and corner of this country and has become a passionate advocate of the government. How can the government help, and how she will be speaking on, can public-private partnerships revive India's 1.4 million anganwadis? Swati?
I'm going to do a lot of thank yous, so you'll have to give me half a minute for that. I always love the topics Sumaya gives me because they really make me think and focus on where the Early Childhood Association can work. And today's topic is one such. This is a very historic moment. It happened last year, and India is there, right there in the middle. I'm waiting to see what India does about the promise that it made at this function. So the power of early childhood education. A lot of people spoke before this about the power of early childhood education. Let me put it in point-wise, that when children receive education in the early years, quality education, it leads to these qualities: potential to think rationally, persist with challenge, use language, suppress impulse, regulate emotion, respond to others' distress, cooperate with peers, cognitive and social skills, and healthy habits. Tell me, which of these skills are not necessary in a human being? They're all necessary, right? And if you look at these skills, they're all necessary in the job market, and they are all necessary in relationships, to be a good human being, to be having good family relationships, to have good social relationships. I don't know the exact figure, this may be wrong, but that's a large figure of children in our country. And look at the small line just below it. It says less than 1/3 get early childhood education. That's the state of our country. So how does India take care of its children? We have the ICDS program, Asia's largest program run by any government. It's called the Integrated Child Development Services. So we have that. And in the private sector, of course, we have all the kangaroo kids and jumbo kids and Euro kids and all providing early childhood care. And then we also have the voluntary sector, the trusts who run their own schools. So this is how generally India is supposed to be taking care of its children in the age group of 3 to 5 years. But this is actually the reality. Early childhood education is the stepchild of the government of this country. So as you can see, on one side you have the fiscal budget, which whips you, it never gives you anything. And then you have the ministries who are constantly tweaking your ears, saying, "Hum regulate karenge, hum ye karenge, hum wo karenge, but hum aapko support nahi denge." And that is what is the reality of this country. Early childhood has become the stepchild. What's happening to our ICDS anganwadis? What is the reality? So we have, they are presently run, they were actually visualized also, and are run as a health and welfare unit. Education is missing in most of them. Anganwadi Sevikas are not qualified early childhood teachers. So which means they are given training as and when required. So nobody is monitoring kitna, kahan, kab. Too many other duties are given to the Sevikas. So they have been given all kinds of duties: election duty, khane peene ka duty, vaccination duty. They have to maintain records of 100 things. In spite of a curriculum draft, the last government was kind enough to make a policy draft. This government, NCRT, has come out with a fantastic draft. In spite of that, there is a lack of resources at all these anganwadis, and the curriculum is not being implemented. So let's understand this gentleman. He is James Heckman. A previous speaker spoke about him. And he is a Nobel laureate, and he gave us the economics of early childhood education. All countries have listened to him and have invested in the early years in their country. What did James Heckman say? 3 things. He said, invest in early years. Then he said, invest in the disadvantaged children in the early years. And then he said, just investing and saying, I have a preschool is not going to help. You need quality early childhood curriculums. So 3 things: invest in the early years, invest in the disadvantaged children, and invest in quality. Only then will you be getting the returns. So this is what is the famous Heckman equation. He shows very clearly that when you invest in the early years, your returns are higher than when you invest in the later years. And this is exactly what all countries in the world have now understood and are following up on it. He says every child should be given early childhood. So you have Australia, where every child has to compulsorily get 2 days a week paid by the government, and the child attends an early childhood center. So a lot of countries are now making it mandatory that children must attend early childhood centers, if not 5 days a week, then minimum 2 days a week. He says greater returns to individual, but he says society benefits when you invest in them. I will be telling you how society will benefit. He also says, when he talks about quality, he says ABCD counting is not going to help. You need life skills. You need social skills. Only if children get these in the early years, then you will see that impact later on. So you can't say that my child went to school, हम लोग ने ABCD सिखाया, हमको तो कुछ इसका फर्क नहीं दिख रहा है. Naturally नहीं दिखेगा, because your child didn't learn how to share. The child did not learn impulse control about waiting for its turn. The child did not learn self-learning. So then that's a very incompetent adult that you are going to end up growing up. So this is his equation. I feel all early childhood educators, policy makers, ministers, prime ministers must read his report. Because then there is no one to advocate to you that bhaiya early years mein invest karo. Because you would have read the report and you would know that investing 1 rupee, if I'm getting 7 rupees, only a fool wouldn't invest. Right or wrong? If I were to give you a plan today that give me your 1 rupee, I'll give you 7 rupees at the end of the conference, which fool wouldn't give me that 1 rupee? Right? You would give me the 1 rupee or not? Yes. Please keep your 1 rupees ready. You wouldn't? I'll take it from you. Okay. So everybody grumbles about the Asar report. Every magazine prints about it, newspapers write about it, and it all talks about how our primary children are not able to read, not able to write, not able to understand. Naturally, they've not attended early childhood. You start the Sarva Siksha Abhiyan from standard 1, so naturally you've lost on the main important years, which is the 3 important years where the foundation of learning happens. But so sadly, just like James Heckman said in his 3rd point, quality curriculum, we are so busy teaching the brain what to learn that we are forgetting that the early years is to train the brain in how to learn. That's more important. America realized this and said, should we invest in prisons or should we invest in preschools? And why did they decide this? This is the very famous quote which says that we will have to confront the pathologies of poverty at some time. We can deal with them cheaply at the front end in infancy, or we can wait and jail a troubled adolescent at the tail end. To some extent, we face a choice between investing in preschools or prisons. This is the most important point. Now let's look at this. This is what most countries are saying. Why should where you start from determine how far you can go? Why should where you are born determine whether you can be successful or not. And these are the Anganwadi children. Let's look at this video.
Starting ahead with early childhood education is better than catching up. Kids without early childhood education spend more effort catching up and need more help along the way. Kids who receive quality early childhood education have the skills to compete, pull ahead, and are more likely to experience long-term success. No fade-out, lasting effects. Get the facts from Nobel laureate James Heckman at heckmanequation.org.
This is happening to our children in this country. The ones who attend private preschools, quality preschool programs, are way ahead than their peers who are in Anganwadis and Balwadis because of the lack of resources, curriculum, teacher training, etc. These children have better language, these children have better social skills because they have attended a quality kindergarten program, a quality preschool program, whereas the others are limping behind. And this is the brain drain that our country needs to be very worried about. It's very important to understand that the gaps in knowledge that these children will get right from the early years are going to impact them later on. There will be school dropouts because they are struggling to learn. There will be school dropouts because they don't know how to learn. There will not be jobs available because they have not completed their graduation. So there will be so many other problems that you'll have to deal with. Let's watch this other video which says,
when disadvantaged children receive the early childhood education they need, they have the cognitive, social, and emotional skills that create a lifetime of benefits that extend beyond school, throughout adulthood, and into our community to impact generations to come. No fade out.
So what it talks about is drugs, crime, all this can go down if you give children quality early childhood for 3 years, 3 to 6 years. That's the kind of society we would get in our country if our Anganwadi and Balwadi children were getting that. Now let's understand one thing. These are the points I showed you in the beginning, right? That this is what is ailing our Anganwadis and Balwadis. Let's now understand this. Because of that, those children are not getting this. So which means 80% of our future citizens are not growing up with these skill sets. Now, most important is this. Why should we be worried about these children? Come on, we are all doing a good job in the private sector. Why should we be worrying about this? And this is where I love this quotation by Lillian Katz. She says, I believe that each one of us must come to care about everyone else's children. We must come to see that the well-being of our own individual children is intimately linked with the well-being of all other people's children. After all, when one of our children needs life-saving surgery, maybe the surgeon would be one who has come from a quota and has not got the proper education and is conducting that surgery on your child. Someone else's child will perform it. When one of our children is threatened or harmed by violence in the streets, someone else's child will inflict it. The good life of our own children can be secured if it is also secured for all other people's children. It's time for us to worry about that 80% of the population because our children will be impacted also because we are not worried about the future of those children. We have to be worried about the future of those children. And this is what I'm going to, I need to go back. So do I do this? Yeah? Okay. So 3 things that we can do to avoid this kind of a problem is when we talk about public-private partnerships. I'll tell you, we have a lot of Anganwadis who have appointed NGOs who are running them for it. Nobody is regulating these NGOs because these NGOs, each one is coming up with their own curriculum, their own skill sets, their own teacher training programs. You need somebody like a private body like Early Childhood Association or any such associations to monitor the kind of work they are doing. Maybe if the government comes to the private players and says, we will give you tax benefits, we will give you land at cheap rates, if you can adopt these many number of anganwadis. There is already a budget there. So it's all that they require is somebody, an expert who can run these places for them. So it is these kind of partnerships that we have to now explore. The government has to think about this, because it's that 80% of children who they are our future citizens. They are what this country is going to be made of. And if we are not going to be worried about it as an audience, then we are not creating the India that we all want. So it's very important that when we talk about adopting a Balwadi or adopting an Anganwadi, I'm sure you will all say, we have adopted our nearest Anganwadi because ECA told a lot of people to do that. But then what are you doing at that Anganwadi? Just donating used toys and books to them is not going to help. You need a partnership which is involved, there's involvement of the government in that partnership. And that is what we are saying, that we should have these kind of partnerships where private players get some benefit out of it by looking after these Anganwadis. Maybe teacher training, maybe resources, maybe curriculum, but again monitored by a professional agency so that the quality is the same in the 1.4 million Anganwadis, and it's not left to each state to decide that I will take this player and यहाँ के Anganwadis बहुत अच्छे हैं और वहाँ के नहीं अच्छे हैं. Every child in India is our child. So why should we leave it to each state's minister to decide the quality of the Anganwadis? So that is what I'm saying. And this is, I think, the right time. Elections are coming, and it's the right time to go and meet the two contenders who want to become the Prime Minister of the country. So ECA has decided to do that we will go and take a selfie with them. If the film industry can do that, so can we. But it is important that we put across to them not only the issues that the private sector is plagued by, but also important for the government to understand that give us some plan in your election manifesto that what are you going to do for the early years of this country. And that is why this picture, that when you vote this year, please think about children and ask that person who comes to ask for your vote, show me what you're going to do for the early years. So that is what I feel we should all be standing up for. Thank you so much. I would like to take 2 minutes. There are 3 people that I would like to thank, and we should actually, early childhood is all about celebrations. We should celebrate each other. And I think Education World was the first one to help us all celebrate our achievements. So I would like to thank Dilip. Thank you so much. Please give a huge round of applause to Education World, Dilip, for coming out with this kind of a concept where all of us come dressed in our finest and are so happy to applaud and get applauded, right? We also have a very senior person sitting there. Is she still there, Dolly ma'am? Yeah, she's right there. Yeah. Please give her a huge round of applause. It's because of seniors like this that we are able to do what we are able to do. And there's a special person sitting right here who I would love to applaud, is Lina Asher. She changed the climate of early childhood private schools in this country. And it's because of her that a lot of branded schools were able to create a space for themselves. So many people here who have contributed to early years, each one of us has. And she was absolutely right, Sumaya, at Early Childhood Association, almost this is like a birthplace of Early Childhood Association. So for us, it's like a birthday every time you have a conference. How many of you are members of Early Childhood Association? Well done. So the others, shame on you, please become a member. Thank you so much.